Hi everyone, my name is Madison, and today I'll be discussing capture methods for the Burmese python. Burmese pythons are one of, if not the, greatest invasive threat to the Everglades ecosystem. Their opportunistic diet makes them a threat to native food chains and a strong competitor with Florida's native predators. Capture methods for these snakes should prioritize quantity and efficiency of capture with minimal risk to native species. My analysis of the current capture techniques for Burmese pythons will determine the most effective method for capture removal of cryptic, low-detection snakes and offer modifications to reduce the risk of native bycatch. So the first up is the classic herbing method of drift fencing. Drift fences are fences that extend in a selected number of directions and guide passing animals into the traps located where the fences meet, or along the fence lining itself. Typically the fences lead either to pitfall traps in the ground or funnel traps on the surface. The main advantage of drift fences is that they guide animals to wherever the trap is, rather than hoping the animal happens to move exactly to where the trap is placed. The fence height is customizable to the size of the species to reduce bycatch of larger animals. Double-sided funnel traps like the one here have the highest capture rate of traditional traps for large cryptic snakes. Drift fences don't require bait to attract animals, but for the funnel or pitfall trap, this can encourage the animal to enter. Unfortunately, food baiting has low success in the Everglades due to high prey abundance, meaning catch rates may decrease if snakes are unwilling to enter the trap they're guided to. These traps also need to be checked frequently because their size can collect anything smaller than a python, especially with pitfalls. Depending on the trap's location, small mammals or native snakes may drown in flooding regions, starve, or die from exposure. Radio telemetry is another popular method, and for good reason. By using what is cleverly named the Judas method, a single productive female python is captured, implanted with a radio transmitter, and released back into the wild. Tracking the female will ideally lead to one of two results: catching the female in a breeding congregation with several reproductive males, or catching her with a collection of eggs. Specifically, when using the Judas method, you're able to catch multiple mature snakes at once over multiple tracking periods. Depending on whether you're using GPS, which can store data over real time, or VHF, which requires manual tracking, you can collect data on snake movement through a section of the Everglades. However, GPS tags are more expensive than VHF, especially for real-time updating. VHF may also not be ideal because you'd be spending hours trying to pinpoint one snake. Either way, the Judas snake still needs to be located and captured along with any conspecifics. Though movement data alone can't tell researchers when the female is with other snakes. The Everglades are a difficult place to travel off-road, which challenges whether researchers can even get the snake back, and whether the potential capture is worth the risk of letting a large, tagged, mature female snake such as this one back in the Everglades. By far the most hands-on approach is putting rubber to the road and setting out into the Everglades to do a human search. Researchers and snake hunters do these surveys often, be it for data collection or pleasure, via trucks on the road. In 2013, the Florida Fish and Wildlife Commission and partners started Florida Python Challenge, an annual competition where people, regardless of residency or training, can submit pythons for chances at big prizes. The duration of the challenge changes per year, but typically results in one of the largest densities of python catches in the state each year. Directly capturing snakes using human hands isn't new, but is a large portion of snake collections each year. Florida allows anyone to remove pythons from private land year-round with the landowner's permission, which encourages people to volunteer their time to research efforts or as a hobby. More people participating means more eyes, and theoretically a larger number of snakes captured versus planting a stationary trap like a pitfall. Trained human eyes also reduce native bycatch, though there's the risk of untrained individuals misidentifying Burmese pythons with other snakes. Human surveying can also monitor more than a GPS implant or trap would, including nests with eggs, small juveniles, and multiple individuals on land and in water. However, this comes with limitations based on the quality and quantity of people on these searches. Burmese pythons are active beginning at dusk, meaning most of the hunt happens in the dark with a flashlight. Participants need to spot a black and brown mass in the grass or water, then be trained in how to properly catch and handle it for disposal. If we look at the Florida Python Challenge, we know that it's gained enough traction to attract people both in and out of state. Having a large influx of people flooding into the Everglades to hunt could put temporary stress on the local environment and lead to targeted harassment of native snakes in efforts to search for Burmese pythons. The use of detection dogs in python surveys has become one of the most promising ways to capture them effectively. According to a study by Romagosa in 2011, the average detection dog is capable of detecting snakes at a 10% higher rate than humans and with less than half the time. A keen sense of smell means that their detectability isn't influenced by their sight, which is especially useful for a species with a cryptic appearance. This also means there's little to no bycatch since the dogs are specifically trained to follow one scent. On the other hand, scent can be greatly influenced by environmental factors including the level of humidity and temperature, both of which work against the dogs in the Everglades. On top of that, detection dogs are expensive to use due to the rigorous amount of training required for them to pick up and follow a scent. The most efficient way to gather a large amount of snakes in a short amount of time is to coordinate dog surveys via GPS movement data. The data confirms the location of the highest activity, and the dogs have the highest chance of finding multiple snakes without tiring out. I also suggest that drift nets be improved by using a combination of terrestrial and aquatic fencing and placing a funnel near the water's edge. Pythons are strong swimmers, and having a funnel entrance partially submerged should discourage small mammals from hopping in without influencing python capture. I also believe there's viable research to be done in cultivating a python pheromone for baited trap. A pitfall trap with female pheromone removes the need for a Judas female, and has already been used successfully in brown tree snakes in Guam. Ultimately, it's difficult to capture Burmese pythons because they're incredibly difficult to find, and I believe the best method for counteracting that is to think like prey. Identifying a predator's scent, and in our case using it against them, is the best way to avoid or capture them. Thank you.